Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Wardy, and we're doing our latest post-game show. Unfortunately, discussing an L, and again, shouldn't come as a shock to many, as I feel like all I've been discussing is losses, aside from the one and rare win, that being yesterday, as the Mets dominated Game 1 against the Astros, winning by a final score of 11-1. They, however, faltered tonight, led by a brilliant outing from the Southpaw and Framber Valdez, who I have a lot to say on, as the Astros take Game 2 of the three-game set in Houston by a final score of 4-2. We'll be breaking down things inning by inning, even though, I mean, for anyone that actually went out of their way to watch this game tonight, you knew that there wasn't really too much to talk about. This is not going to be a long-winded show by any stretch. This was the simple matter of a dominant Southpaw dominating the New York Mets and them not having the remedy. Justin Verlander gives you 7 innings tonight, however, still allows 4 earned runs, one being the lawn ball, which drove in 2 thanks to Alex Bregman, his former teammate, now foe. And Justin Verlander, now in just 48 innings this season, has allowed 8 home runs. Last season, in 175 innings, Justin Verlander allowed a total of 12 home runs. So similar to Mad Max Scherzer and similar to this entire Mets pitching staff, the home run ball continues to be their demise, and if they cannot keep the ball in the park, they will go nowhere this season, as they currently, again, are back down to sitting, if I'm not mistaken, 5 games below 500, 13 games out of first. I'm sure if 5, if not 6 games out of the wild card. I know that, I'm only referencing first because it feels like it wasn't too long ago when the Mets were in somewhat of the running, but as soon as that Braves series happened, it was all downhill from there in regards to them being anywhere close to first, and now the Mets are not going to get in first this year. There isn't a chance in hell, pardon my French, of them getting in first. All that matters for them is them even making playoffs, and even at this rate, it's a bit of a stretch, unless they have, again, some major turn externally in which they acquire some players, and more than anything, just find consistency in their game in which they continue to do anything but. So, while I could be screaming, I could be ranting, I could be doing a lot of things tonight in how I react to this game, as someone that certainly wanted to see this team get on a roll, but I know that's a lot to ask, especially when you're facing a dominant starter and Valdez tonight. But I will say this. Framber Valdez, heading into the season, I picked as my AL Cy Young Award winner. There's good reason for it. He is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Am I shocked that a Mets lineup struggled mightily on his release point, in which, he has a borderline type of release and what is like that makes you think, could be a balk, it could be illegal. It is not. He gets away with it every single time, and his release points are absolutely effortless. I mean, the Mets were swinging at pitches in the dirt multiple feet in front of them. They had nothing for Framber until he got a little tired there in the 8th inning when the Mets tried to start a rally that still fell short. So, again, we're going to break things down inning by inning, but the reality is that this Mets team, I didn't have a great expectation against Valdez tonight, nor do I have a great expectation against Christian Javier tomorrow, who is a stud in his own right-hander, not much of a flamethrower, but a really crafty pitcher that has a lot of movement on his pitches, and he will be a pain in the ass, more than likely, for this Mets team against Tyler McGill. Big trip. But more than anything, before we break down the game inning by inning, before I share my raw reactions to this, what went right and certainly what went wrong, I want to know, everyone in the live chat, how you guys doing tonight? Shout out all my live members watching live on a replay. Happy to have you guys in here. For everyone, again, new subscribers, previous subscribers, happy to have you on here. Let me know your raw thoughts to tonight's 4-2 loss in the comments below. How are you feeling as the Mets got decimated by the Southpaw Framber Valdez? Shouldn't take a rocket scientist to see this one potentially coming at the very least. Obviously, I was being optimistic after yesterday's win, hoping for a series dub today, but that those have been so hard to come by. I don't even remember the last time the Mets won a series, which they won the first 2 games. It feels like it was a year ago, and I'm not exaggerating too much when I say that. Like, seriously, it has been nothing short of a struggle for this Mets team to get consistent back-to-back wins, let alone series wins on a consistent level, or even get consistency out there starting pitching. Justin Verlander, again, gave you 7 innings tonight, and as we just jump into the numbers here, gave you 7 innings, allowed 8 hits, the 4 earned runs. Again, that Bregman bomb, if that didn't happen, JV's looking very sharp tonight. By all means, this was not a horrendous start by Justin Verlander, but at the end of the day, you spend $43 million on a 40-year-old, and this is what you're getting. And this was, again, the risk that you took when you signed him to the high AV short-term deal. The lack of consistency has been there. He's been getting barreled hard giving up that hard contact, giving up those no-doubt home runs like he did to Bregman early on in the third inning today. And ultimately, this is just a Justin Verlander that is yet to be consistent on an every fourth, fifth day basis. Again, I had the privilege of seeing him have a very solid start against the Yankees in the Subway Series, was right behind home plate, had a perfect view. Again, he pitched a very sharp game against Garrett Cole, all things considered, but he has yet to give the Mets back-to-back starts this year in which he's allowing, 3 earned runs or less. He just can't do it. He goes from allowing 1 earned run to allowing 6, 1 earned run allowing 4, 1 earned run allowing 6. It's either greatness or it's the opposite. And I don't want to pinpoint everything on JV tonight because the offense was to blame wholeheartedly for tonight's loss. Framber Valdez, again, carved this Mets team up, and he deserves all the credit in the world for what he did. But it doesn't change the fact that you still hope that you would get something better out of JV than a 4 earned run night against his former club in which he won the World Series with last year, and the Cy Young for that matter. But the Mets were just not able to get what they were hoping for, again, as a shock to absolutely nobody that's been covering, let alone following this team all season long. So let's get into breaking down things inning by inning. Again, shout out my great sponsors at Mojo Sportsbook, So Rare MLB, in which we'll be going over a Francisco Alvarez jersey giveaway in which you will have the chance of entering, and Man to Sleep, but more on those beloved sponsors a little bit later in the show. Again, I would really appreciate if everyone would smash that like and subscribe as you're watching live or on a replay. Really does mean a lot as we're about to break down the game that was, in which the Mets faltered to the Houston Astros by a final score of 4-2, led by a dominant outing from Southpaw and Framber Valdez. A lot more mad than greatness, Wardy. A lot more mad than greatness. Yeah, if you're talking about the team in general, 100%. 100%. We have not been seeing greatness from this Mets team, to say the least. We've been seeing meh on a night-to-night basis more than anything. But let's break it down. Let's talk about it, right? Let's get into this game inning by inning, shall we? So the game starts in the first, as we see. And I'd like to make something clear. The first 5 innings in which I'm going to be breaking things down, you're only going to be hearing it from the Astros side of things, how they do against JV, because the Mets had no hits through 5 innings. In case you weren't following, Framber Valdez had a perfect game through 5 innings. So that's why the game went pretty fast tonight. That's why we're already live here, 2.5 hours after the game start, right around there. Justin Verlander, however, with a 1-2-3 first. In the second, a 1-2-3 second JV. Again, nice, calm, cool, and collected start with 1 walk. But again, we've seen this so much with not only Verlander, we've seen it with Carrasco, and some starts we've seen it with Max, we've seen it with McGill, we've seen it with everyone and their mother in this rotation, even Kodai Senga. We have yet to see a starter in this rotation consistently every 5th day for at least 3 consecutive starts be cruising from the jump. Aside from Mad Max, I'll give him credit. Max did have a 3 or 4 straight start basis where he was very sharp. Then he got his tits lit, and I'm pretty sure that was the game against the Yanks. Well, it was the Braves. To a lesser degree, Yanks definitely got his tits lit, and then, of course, had a phenomenal outing. Arguably his best start as a Metropolitan last night in their 11-1 victory as he won 8 strong, only allowing 1 earned run. But as we get to the third, Jolks with a double for the Astros. Maldonado, the veteran catcher, with a single, and then Altuve drives a run in with an RBI sac fly against his former teammate in JV. And then another former teammate, Alex Bregman, one of the better third basemen in baseball, rips a no-doubt 2-run dick shot to left. And yes, I heard that correctly. It's a dick shot because it's a ding-dong. It's out of here. It's already an Astros 3-0 lead. And as I mentioned earlier, at that point in the game, it's now been 8 home runs allowed in just 48 innings by Justin Verlander this season. He sits with a 4.5 ERA after having a 1.75 or 1.78 ERA last year. It's crazy how things can change, but again, that tends to happen with the Metropolitans. A lot of things never seem to go right, even when you hope for it. Yes, there's plenty of games to be had this year, still 90 plus left. Doesn't change the fact that the Mets are in such a hole right now that unless they get on a consecutive winning streak or win continued series, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3 over the next month or so, they are going to be in a hole that they may not be able to dig themselves out of. And that's a wholehearted truth, albeit there is still a lot of games left this season. That's the only plus that this team has going for them. So the Mets are down 3-0 through 3. As we head into the fourth, Diaz with a single, Pena with a single, but JV's able to work out that 2 on less than 2 out jam. And the fifth, then JV with another 1-2-3 inning, his third of the night, this one including one strikeout. In the sixth, Mark Canha breaks up the no-no and the perfect bid for Southpaw and Valdez as he rips an opposite field single down the first baseline. Wasn't able to get to second because it didn't go deep enough, but that is the first Mets hit of the night, and that breaks up the perfect game. In the bottom of the sixth, Diaz would have looped single for the Astros. They would not score, however. It's still a 3-0 lead through six for the Astros. As we head to the seventh with 2 outs, Francisco Lindor receives a walk. The Mets are not able to produce anything at that point. In the bottom of the seventh, Jolks with an infield single. Then with 2 outs, Altuve drives in his second run of the game. It's now a 4-0 Astros lead. In the eighth, Valdez starting to look a little wary, starting to look a little tired. And it shows as Pham rips an opposite field double after being screwed, might I add. A low strike call. And again, Valdez was brilliant tonight, so I do not want to take anything away from him. But one thing was certain, he got every low strike call imaginable tonight. Nothing didn't go his way on that front, and that's something I like to make abundantly clear because this ump gave him literally everything, even if it was a full ball below the zone, because what should have been a ball 4 on a 3-1 count heading to him, that being in Pham, it was then called a strike. Of course, Pham, being Pham, pretty pissed off about it, but thankfully Pham is so red hot right now that he rips an opposite field single seconds later and shows how locked in he is at the plate. Yes, it's kind of ironic considering he struck out with a slider down in the zone for the final pitch of the game. However, Pham has been continuing to be locked in and is deserving of playing every day, in which he has been pretty much fantastic, or should I say fantastic, over the past, almost a month now is how good Tommy Pham has been. A very productive and a huge hard contact hitting, hard slugging hitting left fielder / GH. Pham with an opposite field single. Alvarez with a double right afterwards. You love to see that for the Rook. Canha with an RBI sac fly, and the Mets score their first run of the game. What I will say, however, is that prior to Canha's sac fly, it was first pitch swinging by McHitt. Unfortunately, doesn't get a hit going opposite field, which was great to see because Jeff has struggled mightily to spread the field this year, in which he thrives so well with the shift in previous years, and that's something that you can clearly tell is being an issue in his game right now. He's a pull hitter, but he's pulling the ball too much. Finally spreads the field first pitch, and what's normally dropping for a single that's driving in a run is robbed there in left field by the Astros because of how short of a left field that they have that benefits them. Then, as the RBI sac fly and Canha happens, a great snag there by Kyle Tucker, but again, not a deep outfield. Tucker was on the beat perfectly, makes a sliding catch, and thankfully the Mets still score a run there, but easily was a situation where in a different ballpark, that's back-to-back singles, and the Mets are right back in this ball game. No less, Canha with the RBI opposite field single, and Eduardo Escobar, who got the start over Brett Baty tonight, in which in a perfect world, I would have liked to see Eddie at DH tonight and Baty starting his second consecutive game of the series, not just because he's in his home state of Texas and had a 2-hit game last night, but because I hate seeing a young kid being platooned. It's never good for their development, and I hate that Buck continues to allow this because he should know by now that this isn't good for player development, and it doesn't necessarily lead to the Mets' success because, again, they lost tonight, right? And their offense, while on paper it looked like a nice lineup, they faced a really good starting pitcher in Valdez and had nothing to go for it against him. But with that being said, Eduardo Escobar, to give benefit of the doubt for at least why he started this game and why I put him on the thumbnail to start the game, is because against left-handed pitching this year, he has a 281 average entering tonight's game and an 865 OPS. So at least it's justified from how well he's been batting from the right side of the plate, why he was in there. And that showed because he was the only one who actually had an RBI base knock for the Mets as he drove in the second run of the game, and that will leave things at 4-2. As we get to the eighth, Jeff Brigham comes in, allows a bases loaded 2-out situation, but thankfully gets out of his own mess unscathed. And as we head to the ninth with 2 outs where Presley's trying to get to the save for the Astros, he allows a 4-pitch walk to Alonso, and then Tommy Pham ultimately strikes out in a little bit of a grinded out at bat, and the Mets lose by a final score of 4-2. So again, frustrating loss to say the least. The Mets just did not have the offense. As many of you guys saw if you were watching tonight's game, it was abundantly clear. Look at the amount of zeros. And one thing that really took me a little bit by surprise is, Brandon Nimmo had a really bad game at the plate yesterday. I think he was 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Thankfully, it didn't matter because the Mets put up 11 runs on, Hunter Brown and that entire bullpen for the Astros. However, Brandon Nimmo leads the Mets right now in strikeouts. Who would have thought that's possible? As Brandon Nimmo right now is sitting with a 280 average, around 800 OPS. He's overall had a very solid season, but it's crazy that we live in a world with Brandon Nimmo while we're over 60 games into the season, if not 70, because I can't do math. I mean, we're definitely 70 in the season, 70 plus actually, right? It's crazy that Nimmo leads the league leads the Mets in strikeouts. And then you get the offer from Marte, offer from Lindor, which is unfortunate, especially because Lindor's been batting better from the right side of the plate. But Valdez did what to Lindor, the same what he did to Alonso and everyone else and their mother in this lineup, and he carved their ass up. He got them into quick 0-2 counts and was able to get them huge swing and miss on breaking balls again, away from the zone. It just, Valdez had it working tonight, to say the least. That's why he currently has a 2.270 ERA on the year. Just dominance is what we saw by the southpaw. And as a Mets fan, as much as it may piss me off, all I can do is tip the cap as someone who knows his brilliance, watching full-fledged with the Astros playoff run last year throughout the regular season. I've watched Valdez the past couple of years now, and he has been nothing short of a treat. If you're on the Astros side and if you're the opposing team, that's anything but a treat. It's more like a disaster is what it is, and that was the case for the Mets tonight. But there's the offensive production, or should I say lack thereof, that you see. But now let's get into talking about a little bit more on this team. But before I do, let's get into at least if there's any positive that we can talk about tonight. Let's talk about a positive, which is our great friends at Sorare MLB. As many of you guys know, Sorare MLB is the best MLB fantasy game out there, and we are partnered with them, which I'm so grateful of, because not only is it free to play, you don't have to spend a dime if you don't want to. All you do is sign up, clicking the link in the live chat in the description down below or in the comments down below to Wardy's new unique Sorare MLB League. You draft your team, you enter weekly tournaments, and you guys, by doing that, are playing against me and other awesome Mets fans in the community. And again, you can build your teams, and how your teams perform is based on the player's success in real life. So again, by clicking the link in the live chat, in the description, the comments down below, you will then be automatically entered, drumroll please, to win a Francisco Alvarez jersey. We will be picking one random winner at the end of the month to whoever clicks the link, signs up to Wardy's unique Sorare MLB League. Again, free MLB fantasy game to play. It's not normal sports betting or anything like that. It's just a fantasy game. You sign up. You don't have to spend a dime if you don't want to. However, if you do, then that definitely doesn't hurt. If you enter normal tournaments aside from my own in the Wardy's unique Sorare MLB League, you have a chance of winning hundreds of thousands of dollars in prizes, free tickets to your favorite team, free VIP access to meet your favorite players and get an all game day experience, and so much more. But the big thing we're doing here on the channel as a partnership is, again, if you sign up, draft your team, enter weekly tournaments, if you do all those steps, again, takes you 2 seconds to do by clicking the link that I have available for you guys in various ways, then you will have a chance at winning a Francisco Alvarez El Troll jersey, and which will be picking one random winner at the end of the month. So again, click the link in the live chat and the description down below or in the comments for people on replay if you want your chance at winning a Francisco Alvarez jersey at the end of the month. And again, shout out to Sorare MLB for being a great sponsor on the channel. But now let's get back into answering some of your comments. Again, appreciate everyone that's been chiming in, folks, as we're breaking down the loss that was in Mets land as they faltered at Houston by a final score of 4-2. Francisco Otham, thank you so much for the $5 holla. Francisco says, Mets and Phillies $600 million combined, a payroll just to look at the Braves at the top of the NL East. Love the content, bug. Keep up the grind. We got a Braves fans. Appreciate the donation. Again, if you're going to be Braves fan, if you're going to be cocky, the least you could do is throw me a couple bucks. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And again, here's the thing. We all know that spending money doesn't ultimately lead to success right away. But I think something that needs to be made abundantly clear, because a lot of Braves fans continue to not acknowledge this, is that yes, the Mets game plan with the $400 million payroll is quite literally blowing up in their face in the short term right now. That is correct. But what is also correct is the fact that money isn't a factor for the Mets, because they have an owner that has the money to spend. When you're worth $17 billion and you're actually a diehard fan and invested owner, you're willing to spend this money, and it's not going to hurt you in the long term, because the Mets have very few long-term contracts. If you're not Francisco Lindor, you don't have a long-term contract with the Mets pretty much. That's just how it is right now, aside from hopefully the Mets can lock up Alonso sooner rather than later, and hopefully the Mets can take, a page out of the Braves playbook and start signing their young talent to a decade-long deal of at only $150 to $100 million in the Francisco Alvarez's, the Brett Beattys of the world, maybe even the Ronnie Mauricios, etc. If they do want to actually give him an opportunity and keep him on the club long term. But the point stands, the Mets do this spending because it's different than other clubs where they're so limited in their spending. The Mets can do the high AV over short-term deals because they're trying to focus on a win-now team while not depleting their farm, and doing so because the previous ownership and regime, led by Brian Van Wagenen at GM, in which he was anything but great for this team, and of course that that being in the Wilpons, or should I say the coupons, they were so limited in their spending after everything that happened with Bernie Madoff a couple decades ago that they just weren't willing to spend, even if they had money to do so. And because of that reason, they would trade away top prospects for more than what they should be getting. And in doing so, that what led the Mets to having such a depleted and low barrel, below pond scum type farm. So the Mets are doing this to help build the farm right now and make the proper moves when deemed, kind of that Dodgers philosophy, and it has been perfect. And things are not going in their favor right now, and it's nothing short of a disappointment. And I know Cohen is pissed off, but I think something is made abundantly clear is that, yes, it sucks having a $400 million payroll, and your team is 5 games below 500 right now. It's inexcusable. It's dog shit. It's frustrating. It's all those things. Fully aware of that, but it doesn't change the fact that this is at least an ownership that will be able to eat the dollars when needed to make the proper adjustment and changes. Cohen at least has shown a willingness to part with guys if they are not deemed worthy of being on this club, regardless of what their pay status is. So that is the one thing I can say that is a positive on that front. But yes, the Braves have done great when it comes to their internal scouting, aside from the illegal, nefarious decisions that they made in scouting and, of course, acquiring the Ozzie Albies and the Ronald Acuna Jr.'s of the world, in which they basically got a slap on the wrist for that. I know there's a lot of shady things that happen with international scouting. I know that the Braves aren't the only one, but the point still stands. The Braves have not depleted their farm over the past decade, which has led to their success, versus the Mets, who are trying their absolute best efforts on doing the opposite and building their farm finally after they depleted it for years and years on end, just to be a subpar club under the Ponzian regime. So that's the final thing I'll say on that. You sound like a Yankees fan or any other spoiled fan, says Joseph. Hope you're not talking to me, Joseph, because I'm anything but spoiled. Mets fans are anything but spoiled. Yeah. Hope that wasn't in reference to me. Let's see. Steven, thank you so much for the $10 Holly. Says, Braves fan here, paying for the good baseball analysis. Steven, you're a beauty. Thank you so much. Braves fans being very nice. Really, really does mean a lot. I've gotten a lot of Braves fans hit me up over recently, that they hope that they have a Wardy-esque type of personality in their space on YouTube. And I hope for your sake, you guys, that happens soon. But I appreciate it. Again, the one thing I will say is that as much as I despise the Braves, I love the rivalry. Isn't much of one right now, considering how piss poor the Mets have been at this moment. However, I'm looking forward to when the Mets are going to be able to get back and, actually have these duels with the Braves. It just isn't right now. Braves are on another level. We're well aware of that. They're going to win the division this year. They should, at least. And as Mets fans, I'm just focused on making playoffs, making the proper adjustments prior to that point, so they don't just waltz in and then get kicked out right away like we saw last year. What about getting rid of Epler? It's not going to happen. It's as simple as that. Nothing will happen with the front office until the offseason at minimum. I just do not see a world where that happens. I really don't. Simple as that. Whether we like it or not. Let's see. Lindor getting comfortable with his steady fat payday worry? No. One thing I will say on Lindor is that while it sucks that the contact hang has not been there, and that's something that needs to change, Lindor is still on pace for 30 home runs and 100 plus RBIs again this year. So he's one of the best shortstops in the league right now. His defense is elite as ever. He's driving in runs galore. I mean, he's already got 50 RBIs on the season. He's one of the best. He's one of the best extra base hitters in all of baseball right now. Not the contact guy that we're hoping or wanting. He has a little bit more length and launch in his swing, which is leading to this point. So the contact hang has not been there. We need it to be there. We need to be on more of a consistent level, no doubt. But to suggest that Lindor is still not being a very productive player is silly. Is he worth his money right now? No, of course he's not. And in hindsight, he probably won't ever be unless he can help lead this club to win championships. But that's just the nature of the game. When you sign a guy to a 10-year, $300+ million deal, the odds of them being in the team's favor for whoever it may be is slim to none unless they can bring championships and be a factor in doing so. I have the utmost confidence that Lindor can be that big game player when the Mets need him to, especially down the stretch come playoff time. However, we have yet to get there this season, and we have yet to see a Lindor that can have a more balanced approach at the plate that we simply are not getting at the moment. He's boom or bust. It's a double, it's a home run, or it's nothing. There's nothing in between in regards to Lindor and his production. And that's another big issue with him, as is the lineup. Even Alonso, for that matter. Love Pete, but Pete has not been that contact hitter that you're hoping for either. Pete, normally sitting around 260 on the average, and batting average only means so much. Fully well aware of that, but the point stands. Even Pete has struggled. He's one in his slumps. He's really one in them, and it's been a demise for this club. If he's not driving and runs consistently, boy oh boy, does this team have a problem. And again, this Mets team this lap, they are top heavy, and they don't have the depth that a team like the Braves do, where you don't only get solid contact hitting, but you're getting a guarantee like 15 home runs from everyone in their lineup pretty much, as long as they're getting consistent playing time. That's why the Braves are so good, and that's why they're on another level. And the only reason why we're doing the constant comps with the Braves is because they're in the division. But if we separate them from the division for 1 second, you have to realize that the Braves are becoming more and more of an anomaly. They are quite literally one of the best teams in baseball. And the reality is that we need to view this Mets team more so not on the Braves aspect, because they aren't on the Braves level, but more on what they could try to do and beating up on a team hopefully as soon as this weekend in the Philadelphia Phillies. That's a team that the Mets need to have more their eyes set on, if anyone in the division. Same thing with the Miami Marlins, who are like 10 games above 500 because they have dominant pitching. They won the Lopez trade because they didn't need Lopez to begin with their great depth, led by a 20-year-old starter right now that has like a 1.5-year Ray and Perez for them. And, Luis Ariz, again, with their basically 400 average, doing shit that we haven't seen in who knows how long. I mean, this guy has been nothing short of an absolute treat to watch and a pain in the ass to play against. We saw it from the beginning of the season. The point stands. The Mets are the farthest thing from perfect. They're not even great right now. They're decent. The Mets are actually below mid. With their current record and how they're standing. A lot of things need to happen for this club in order for things to go their way. And as I've been saying before, the only thing you could say is that there's a lot of games left this year. That's the only thing this team has going for them. But again, if they sit on their hands, if they get complacent over the next month leading up to the trade deadline, that tells you, one, they're banking on internal options, and two, they know that they're not going to have a deep run, or at least they don't have the confidence that they will. Because if they did, then they would shoot for the stars at the deadline the best they can without giving up the farm entirely. And what we've seen thus far would indicate that that just isn't going to happen. So hopefully, again, we know the Mets are going to be aggressive by the trade deadline, if not sooner, but it needs to be sooner. That's another thing. And if they don't do something within the next couple weeks, they're going to be in an absolute shit show, because this pitching is, again, the demise. Don't get me wrong, the offense sucked today, but the offense has not been the issue for a bit now. It really has not been. Prior to yesterday's win, as I stated in yesterday's postgame show, prior to yesterday's win, the Mets won 6 consecutive games with a loss, scoring at least 7 runs. You know how fucked that is, pardon my French? You know how ridiculous that is? Prior to yesterday's game, the Mets had a record of 19-14 this season when scoring 5 or more runs. Last season, the 2022 New York Metropolitans had a record of 76-5 when scoring 5 or more runs. So for anyone that doesn't think that pitching is and will continue to be the biggest factor in the Mets winning and losing ball games consistently, I don't know what to tell you, because the whole hard truth is that this club will only go as far, or lack thereof, as the pitching will take them. And man, oh man, they really, 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 really need to get their shit together, and to this point, they still have not. Let's see. We got some chat in here again. Appreciate everyone that's been chiming in as we've been breaking down. Braves fans, thank you for the donuts. Everyone that's been chiming in live or on a replay, happy to have you guys in here as we're talking about the New York Metropolitans losing another game as they will look to try to win a series for what feels like the first time in forever. The Mets haven't won a series since May 31st, guys. Will tomorrow be the day that they finally get that monkey off the back? The same way that they had another drought this year of basically going a month plus straight without a series win. Because remember, the Mets won their series in LA and didn't win a series again for a month plus after, when they played bad baseball teams. But the Mets right now, too, are a bad baseball team. So it's like I can't even rag them much. And, teams that you normally look forward to facing, and the Pirates have been solid, even though they've been on the losing side. The Reds, the Mets lost a series to the Reds when the Reds weren't what they are now. That's the worst part, right? The Reds have won 10 straight games. They're first in the NL Central. Ellie De La Cruz, Joey Votto, their captain, is back. Mr. Canada. Spencer Steer. Matt McClain. They have so many pieces. They have very solid pitching. and they don't have the payroll to save their life because they have a piece of shit owner. That's baseball. That's how it works. That is how it works, folks. That's just how it works. But what also works is our great sponsor on the channel that we're going to be getting into shortly. And that is our good friends at Mojo Sportsbook. And for those that don't know Mojo, again, guys, Mojo Sportsbook is based out of New Jersey. So if you are not a Mets or Braves fan or, Astros fan, whoever you're a fan of, if you're not currently residing in New Jersey, then you can put on the earmuffs. This does not concern you. However, for New Jersey residents only, I got to tell you guys a little bit about our great sponsor here on the channel, that being the Mojo Sportsbook, because they are the betting stock market that's operating in New Jersey. Every bet on Mojo offers live trading so you can get in and get out of the game all game long. It's stock trading meets sports betting, which I love so much. Imagine doing a Robinhood app or something where you invest daily type of stocks if you want to day trade, but now combine that with actual players. You can spend real dollars, 20, 30, 40 plus bucks on investing in player stock. Yes, you heard that correctly. And that doesn't just go for MLB, that goes for all sports, but specifically MLB, given the topic of discussion here, and with money lines, player props as well. So you could go the over and under on Ks that you're investing on cents on the dollar, but that converts to, say, over, or under. If you're, say it's a plus 162 or it's under a minus 130, whatever it may be, they have all your props needs as well that they have really, really been providing well, especially if you hammered FAM on the over on bases yesterday, if you hammered Max on the over on Ks, even if you hammered, I don't know if it was available, but Justin Verlander on innings, JV going 7 innings today is definitely something that not everyone expected, so that's still a plus in its own right. However, you can cash in when you're up, and you can cash out when it's going bad. That is the best part of it all. You have a total control of your bets. So unlike other sports books that you deal with in which they don't provide good cash outs, that's where Mojo Sportsbook truly provides a difference maker. Their cash outs are way more available and highly more in your favor than any other sportsbook out there. So all you have to do, again, is download the app, use my promo code WardyNYM for a 20% deposit match up to $100, and sign up today with the link in the description of the show. Again, use my promo code WardyNYM for a 20% deposit match up to $100, and shout out Mojo Sportsbook for being a great sponsor on the channel. I appreciate everyone chiming in and taking the time to all my New Jersey residents. But now let's get back into it, guys. Let me hear how you're saying. Let's get a prediction going, as we usually do, as we're at the halfway mark of the show, which we'll be wrapping things up in the coming minutes. Everybody in the live chat right now, let me know. Give me a simple answer. Will the Mets win or lose their series tomorrow at 2:10 or so p.m. start in Houston against those Astros? Christian Javier, nothing short of a stud of a right-hand young starting pitcher, faced it off against Tyler McGill. McGill had a very, very solid 6-inning performance the last time he pitched. Let's see if he can follow it up tomorrow against these Astros. But I want your prediction. It's as simple as this. Everyone watching live on a replay. Will the Mets win or lose their series tomorrow? Let me hear it. And of course, this is prior to them facing the Phillies in Philadelphia starting Friday, in which this Saturday, as of now, as long as the weather is permitting and they play, your boy will be with the 7 line this weekend, and hopefully Wrecker will be taking part. Still waiting confirmation on that. But for any of my 7 line members out there that will be in attendance this Saturday's game, 4 p.m. start around a noon tailgate beginning right in the Philly parking lot at the bars there. Look out for your short schmuck boy. It's going to be a great event this weekend. Cannot wait to see you guys there. Might do a little bit of a vlog. At minimum, you're going to get a post-game video after the game, win or lose. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Everyone that's attending this Saturday's game in Philly, even if you're not with the 7 Live, make sure you try to chime in. Make sure you hop by the second section in the outfield. You can't miss us. You'll see 1,000 Mets fans in blue taking over the place, and come say hi. But let's get back into it. So we got loss. W. We got some optimistic fans in here. W. More L's than W's I'm seeing in regards to predictions for tomorrow, as expected. Matthew says, hey, Wardy, should the Mets try and sell Verlander, Scherzer, Marte? Not going to happen. There's not one team in baseball that's going to take JV or Scherzer at their price points right now. Marte, with his long-term contract, isn't going anywhere right now. Canna, Escobar, those guys are more expendable given their contracts. But the fact of the matter is that the guys that are paid the big bucks are not going anywhere anytime soon. They're just not going to. don't see a chance until that happens, nor do I see the Mets becoming a full seller at the trade deadline. I don't foresee that happening either. As of now, I still do believe that they are going to be buyers. When is the next Queen's Corner? The goal is for the next Queen's Corner to be tomorrow night. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that can happen, barring Joe and Wrecker's schedule. Also, big round of applause to our good, beloved co-host and friend Joe Serrallo. He was on MLB Network, on MLB TV, to be exact, yesterday, making his betting segment debut as a guest on Better's Eye. And he, of course, had his 25th birthday yesterday. Shout out to you, Joe, you beauty. And he provided 2 bets yesterday. And the first one was Max Scherzer allowing 2.5 runs or less. And he got that. He was 2-0 on his picks in his MLB.TV debut and was 4-0 with his picks overall yesterday. So, yeah, make sure you're hopping on the Joe Serrallo train for all your sports betting picks and needs. That is at the Joe Serrallo on Twitter. And Joe, of course, is the beloved co-host of mine for the Queen's Quarter podcast that comes out weekly after usually every series, barring, things that go on with our schedules. Myself, Joe, and, of course, Anthony Wrecker, former Met turned MLB Network analyst who is on the network basically every night this week. So make sure to chime into that if you haven't already. Can we get Luis Castillo from the Mariners? No, we cannot. Luis Castillo is going to be Mariner. Very good chance for the remainder of his career, or close to. Going up to some more comments before we wrap things up. The White Sox sell at the deadline. What do you think that Dylan Cease will be available? A good question. I know Cease hasn't had the greatest year so far, but I would love him. Great talent. Again, Cy Young runner-up last year. If he's available, you do what you can to try to get him, even with his flaws right now. But I don't know if he would be. That might be one of those few guys that the White Sox do not want to part with. Wardy, let's just say this team is dumb enough to buy at the deadline. Well, they will be buying at the deadline, so that's why we'll be doing trade target content sooner or later on the channel. We'll be going over top 5s for you guys, which I'm excited to get over and discuss with you all. What starter would I want the Mets to get? Well, there's many out there that are intriguing to me. Certainly the White Sox. I mean, just in general. One of a Dylan Cease, a Lance Lynn. And Lance Lynn might be so up and down, but the Mets could use a bulldog in their rotation like him as their number 5. They really could. 16 Ks against the Mariners, tying a franchise record the other night. Pretty crazy. Lance Lynn I wouldn't hate, even though that he has his flaws to say the least. And no clue how he would be doing in the big game in New York especially. However, Lucas Giolito I like quite a bit. But Giolito also hasn't been that same pitcher since the sticky substance breakdown. A little bit of a merchant on that front. So I have some concerns and reservations on that front. Dylan Cease is the guy with the biggest potential at all of them. It's not even close. I mean, the guy's curveball is effing disgusting. A lot of fastball life there for sure. Young still has a lot to give on his pitches right now. So White Sox is definitely a team that you look at. The same thing could be said with, borderline teams that are teetering if they're going to be, buying, selling, which is something to follow. But the White Sox are definitely locked in as a first team that comes to mind. Aside from them, not much off the dome that's, hitting as a real possibility or something to heavily consider at the moment. That's something that I'll have to do a little bit more of my homework of and really get a feel for where each team stands right now and where you kind of predict that they'll be by the trade deadline and how willing they'll be able to sell, or if there could be any situation where it's like a win-win trade scenario, if you will, or, a team gets a starting pitcher, the other team gets, a solid piece that may be able to impact them this year, and they're because say a team has abundance of starting pitching that they're willing to part with for a certain piece, and the other team is, say, willing to give away that certain piece because they desperately need pitching. So something to follow, but we're going to have plenty to get into. Where's Mauricio and Vientos? In AAA, where they're playing every day right now. And, as much as I want to see both of them on this roster, I want to see consistent pitching. That's what I also want to see. So I don't know when Vientos and or Mauricio will be up with the club again, but what I can tell you is that this Mets team needs pitching help more than life itself. And until they do that, I can't sit here and say that Mauricio and or Vientos will single-handedly help the Mets win ball games when even the kids, when they've gotten production from an Alvey and Beatty, etc., it's only done so much for them. It really has, which is a frustrating thing. Wardy, did I check my P.O. box? No, I still need to, Z. I will do that. Thank you so much. I don't know if you sent anything, but if you did, thank you kindly. It really does mean a lot, brother. I definitely need to go and do that. And because you said that, I'm actually going to do my best to do that tomorrow. Just been so cooped up and having so much things going on in my personal life aside from work you guys have no idea about, so haven't gotten the chance to do some of those little things, but I will certainly do them. But with that being said, guys, before we get out of here, I gotta let you know, last but not least, about our great sponsor, and of course you guys know the drill. It's Manta Sleep. It's Manta Sleep, the best sleep mask on the market. You slip it on, you sleeping like a beauty, even after a tough Mets out like tonight where you just want to sleep your sorrow away. That is where the Manta Sleep Mask Pro, specifically that I have in my possession, comes into play. And for those that don't know about Manta Sleep, look how happy this broad is. You know, if she's happy, then I'm happy for her too, right? You know, the Mets right now, they haven't been playing great baseball, but if there's one way to, you know, kind of get a good night's sleep and block them out for a second, it is, of course, by throwing on the Manta Sleep Mask. And as we talk about Manta Sleep, as I highlight a lot, their sound mask has gone raving reviews, their newer, hotter product. Again, if you want to listen to whatever favorite music you got going at night or during the day for a nap, wherever you are, at home, on an airplane, trying to avoid turbulence, you know, maybe you're with a group of people that you just want to block out, not listen to, not want to see, that's where you throw on the sound mask. The Pro Mask, in which I have in my possession right now, sleeping like a baby on a night-to-night basis, you know the drill there. You got yourself a weighted mask that, again, is very comfortable. They have kids masks for all those kiddos out there that want them as well. Got a Manta Cool Mask. If, say, you're going to bed hot at night, you want some cooling around the eye sockets, the Manta Cool Mask is there for your needs. Same applies with the Manta Steam Mask, where if you want some steam around the eye sockets, that is where you're getting in that regard. So again, Manta Sleep has all your sleep mask needs, beyond affordable and beyond comfortable. So all you have to do, again, is click the link in the description to mantasleep.com using my promo code WARDY for 10% off your purchase. Again, that is promo code WARDY, WARDY, for 10% off your purchase at mantasleep.com. Click the link in the description, and shout out Manta Sleep, as always, for being a great sponsor on the channel. But just as they are a great sponsor on the channel, you guys are all great viewers, and I love you all to death. But it's now time for me to hit the hay and get out of here. So guys, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, and gals, whenever you're watching this. Thank you guys so much for chiming in. Mets lose by a final score of 4-2. They look to get the series W in the rubber match, matinee a day game tomorrow against those Astros. Until then, I will see you all later. Have a great one, folks.